has changed." Martine smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "Go, represent your father's word. They certainly will not." Dominic nodded grimly and set off for the study. His boots echoed loudly against the marble floors as he made his way through the silent, dimly lit halls. Were it not for Martine's summons, he would never have willingly entered the LeVeq ancestral home. He had no connection to the home established by the original Duke during the 15th century, or to the ornately framed portraits of his descendants lining the walls. He was the bastard child of Antoine and his beloved mistress, Dominic's mother, Marie, a manumitted slave. Dominic had visited this place a few times in his youth, but his mother, of course, had not. The only reason Antoine's wife, Nancine, had allowed Dominic inside was that her husband wouldn't visit without him. When Marie died on Martinique under suspicious circumstances, Antoine turned his back on Nancine, Edward, and France forever and took to the sea. His death in England last month from pneumonia had come as a shock. Dominic had been certain the old man would live forever. He hadn't attended the funeral because he knew Nancine would not have allowed his presence, so he and the other seamen who'd called Antoine LeVeq friend had honored his passing from afar. When he opened the door to the study, one of the lawyers was reading the will aloud, but at Dominic's unannounced entrance, he stopped and stared, as did the others seated about the elegant, book-lined room. "I see you started without me," Dominic stated easily, closing the door behind him. Edward LeVeq shot to his feet. "What are you doing here?" "It is good to see you too, mon frère," Dominic tossed back sarcastically, before turning cold eyes on his late father's wife. "Nancine," he voiced with cool politeness. He didn't expect her to acknowledge him. She didn't disappoint, so he answered Edward's question. "I came to hear the will." The two lawyers quickly looked to each other in what appeared to be panic before regaining their composure. Their reactions put Dominic on notice that something was indeed afoot. Edward, whose blonde hair and brown eyes mimicked his mother, Nancine's, replied bitterly, "This has nothing to do with you. Leave us." Dominic countered, "I am a son of the House of LeVeq, and whether our father left me everything or nothing, I have a right to be here." And he took a seat. Edward's lips tightened. He looked as if he might say more, but Dominic ignored him and turned to the lawyers. "Continue." Neither man was familiar to Dominic. During Antoine LeVeq's lifetime, all legal matters had been handled by a cadre of London-based solicitors who were also friends, but Edward and Nancine had probably terminated their services even before the soil settled over the old Duke's grave. The lawyer who'd been interrupted by Dom's entrance cleared his throat. "As I was saying, everything has been left to you, Edward." He turned to Dominic and repeated pointedly, "Everything." Moving his focus back to the smug-faced Edward, he added, "I have looked into the situation in the Indies as you requested, and the courts agree that because there is nothing in the will freeing the blacks, they are now owned by you." Dominic froze. "What blacks?" Edward answered, "The ones in Martinique. Father freed them the day I was born." Edward's ice-blue eyes glittered. "Not according to the courts, and as soon as these papers are sealed and filed, they belong to me." Dominic shot the lawyers a deadly stare, and they looked so uncomfortable they wouldn't or couldn't meet his gaze. Edward continued smoothly, "As father's only legitimate son, I inherit those blacks, and although he may not have